Hello, my friends. Now let's address ChatGPT's response to the question I shared in the previous segment. Here is ChatGPT's response. Your interpretation of the verses about the barzakh, that is, the intermediate word or phase between the physical death and the resurrection, and the conclusions you draw are based on several concepts in Islamic theology. Let's examine the verses you have provided to evaluate whether your conclusions are consistent with the Quranic message. Number 1. Barzakh as a separation after death. Verses. Until when death comes to one of them, he will say, My Lord, send me back, so that I may act righteously in that which I have left behind. Never. It is simply a word he utters. And in front of such people there is barzakh, a curtain, till the day when they will be resurrected. Chapter 23, verses 99 to 100. Conclusion. You correctly interpret this verse as describing a clear separation after death, where the disbelievers regret their actions but are told they cannot return. The term barzakh here represents a barrier or intermediate stage between death and resurrection, preventing any return to the world for further action. Analysis. This verse confirms that once death occurs, a person enters barzakh, where they are separated from the world of the living and await the day of resurrection. The regret and desire to return to rectify their deeds reflects the realization of reality after death. The barzakh serves as an impassable barrier until the day of judgment, supporting your conclusion that the actual personality, that is, spiritual being, is in a phase of dormancy or sleep, disconnected from the physical world. Point number 2. Angels taking the souls and punishing the wicked. Verses. If only you could witness when the unjust are in the agonies of death, and the angels stretch their hands and say, Deliver yourself. Today you shall have your punishment, a punishment of humiliation, because you have been saying about God what is not true. Chapter 6, verse 93. And if you could see when the angels take away the souls of those who disbelieve at death, they smite their faces and their backs. Chapter 8, verses 50 and 51. Conclusion. You mention that the wicked experience nightmares and remorse in barzakh. The verse indicates that disbelievers face agony during death, followed by humiliation and torment in the intermediate phase. Analysis. Your conclusion aligns with the text, as it is clear that disbelievers endure immediate consequences upon their death. The angels punish them for their arrogance and rejection of truth, leading to a state of ongoing torment in barzakh, foreshadowing their ultimate punishment in the afterlife. This suggests that barzakh is not a neutral period for everyone. It is filled with either bliss or torment based on one's deeds, further supporting your interpretation of different experiences for the righteous and wicked during this period. Point number 3. Martyrs and prophets. Verses. And say not of those who are killed in the way of Allah, they are dead. Nay, they are living, but you perceive it not. Chapter 2, verse 154. Think not of those who are killed in the way of Allah as dead. Nay, they are alive with their Lord, and they have provision. Chapter 3, verse 169. Conclusion. You conclude that the stage of barzakh does not apply to prophets and martyrs, as they are immediately granted provisions and dwell in paradise. Analysis. Your interpretation is consistent with these verses. The Quran explicitly mentions that martyrs are not dead in the conventional sense. They are alive and provided for by their Lord. This suggests that martyrs bypass the dormancy or disconnection typically experienced in barzakh. Instead, they enjoy the blessings of paradise immediately after their physical death, supporting your point that the barzakh experience varies significantly between ordinary believers and martyrs or prophets. Point number 4. Resurrection and accountability. Verses. The angel of death who has been assigned for you will receive yourself in full. Then you will be brought back to your Lord. Chapter 32, verse 11. And the earth will shine with the light of its Lord, and the book will be placed open, and the prophets and the witnesses will be brought forward, and it will be judged between them with truth, and they will not be wronged. Chapter 39, verse 69. Conclusion. You assert that all human beings except martyrs and prophets remain dormant in barzakh until the day of resurrection, where they will be resurrected and judged. Analysis. This conclusion is also supported by the Quranic texts. The idea of resurrection and accountability on the day of judgment is fundamental, and the verses highlight that everyone will be brought back to their Lord for judgment. The mention of prophets and witnesses being brought forward for the judgment indicates a distinct role for them, aligning with your view that they are not subject to the same dormant state in barzakh. Point number 5. The experience of barzakh for the righteous and the wicked. Verses. Those whom the angels cause to die while they are pure, they say, peace be upon you, enter the garden because of what you used to do. Chapter 16, verse 32. The ones to whom the angels brought death while they were still wronging themselves, then they will resort to submission, yet will say, we used to do nothing wrong. Chapter 16, verse 28. Conclusion. You correctly state that the righteous experience peace and anticipation of reward in barzakh, while the wicked experience torment and regret. Analysis. These verses clearly differentiate between the fate of the righteous and the wicked in barzakh. The righteous are welcomed with peace and the promise of paradise, while the wicked face punishment and regret their previous deeds. This supports your conclusion that barzakh is a stage of anticipation, where each individual's deeds determine whether they experience bliss or agony. Now, the final overall evaluation by ChatGPT. Your conclusions appear to be in harmony with the Quranic text. You have accurately distinguished between the various experiences in the barzakh for different groups: the righteous, the wicked, and the prophets and martyrs. And your interpretation of this intermediate phase as a temporary period before the final resurrection and judgment is consistent with Islamic eschatology. You also correctly point out that the barzakh serves as a state of either torment or peace, depending on one's actions in the world, and that certain groups like prophets and martyrs, are granted special status. In conclusion, the verses you have cited indeed support the view that Barzakh is a period of separation during which individuals await resurrection and experience consequences, positive or negative, based on their earthly deeds. Your analysis is well aligned with these themes, making your conclusions valid from a Quranic perspective. My friends, with this, ChatGPT's answer finishes. Thank you.